History, the Sewerage and Water Board believed that even if another big storm came, New Orleans would be safe. The report's authors reflected on the storm's lessons this way. There is no reason why this city and its surrounding country should not continue even more successfully than heretofore, its developments in all directions. The experience of the 1915 hurricane affirmed the consensus among engineers and investors, city planners and politicians, home builders and home buyers that New Orleans should grow. The city they created became one of the most celebrated places in the world. "Ain't no city like the one I'm from," the women in the original Pinettes brass band sang a century later. New Orleans admirers lauded it as the land of dreams, the Big Easy, the city that care forgot, America's most interesting city, and the soul of America. With its jazz, Mardi Gras, and other iconic contributions to world culture, more than any other place in America, New Orleans called to mind creativity, cosmopolitanism, and love of life. But today, New Orleans also calls to mind catastrophe. The city drowned when its levee system collapsed on August 29, 2005, killing hundreds of people, destroying thousands of homes, and precipitating not only one of the most horrific moments in modern American history, but offering an emblem for the idea of disaster itself. Katrina. The response to the 1915 storm thus cast a century-long shadow, because the new neighborhoods developed after that storm experienced the worst flooding in 2005. More than any other single factor, including the race or class of its inhabitants, the age of a building best predicted how it would fare in 2005. Tracing the outline of the Katrina flood reveals the shape of New Orleans as it stood 9 decades earlier. Most houses built before 1915 did not flood, but most houses built after the Sewerage and Water Board's 1915 call for further growth did. Usually we imagine disasters as exceptions. We describe them as external attacks, ahistorical acts of God, blows from without. That is why most accounts of Katrina begin when the levees broke and conclude not long after. But these stories offer a denuded sense of what happened, why or what might have prevented the catastrophe. Somebody had to build the levees before they could break. I begin the story of Katrina in 1915 in order to pursue a different idea, that disasters come from within. Disasters are less discrete events than they are contingent processes. Seemingly acute incidents like the largely forgotten 1915 hurricane live on as the lessons they teach, the decisions they prompt, and the accommodations they oblige. Their causes and consequences stretch across much longer periods of time and space than we commonly imagine. Seeing disasters in history, and as history, demonstrates that the places we live and the disasters that imperil them are at once artifacts of state policy, cultural imagination, economic order, and environmental possibility. Katrina's causes and consequences reach across a century. The 1915 Sewerage and Water Board report shaped the rationale for developing the neighborhoods that flooded in 2005. Wrangling over fur-trapping rights in the 1920s in St. Bernard Parish shaped a legal struggle for offshore oil in the 1940s, which shaped Louisiana's economy in the 1950s, the state's coastline in the 1970s, and the state's coastal master plan to confront land loss in the 2010s. When the Industrial Canal dredged for shipping interests in 1918, flooded the homes of veterans during Hurricane Betsy in 1965, the memory of sharecropping shaped how African Americans interpreted the Small Business Administration loans they were offered as disaster relief. The memory of Hurricane Betsy shaped how New Orleanians responded when the Industrial Canal broke again under the weight of Hurricane Katrina's storm surge in 2005. The promise of the Federal Housing Act of 1937 shaped the claims that residents made for a right of return to public housing in 2007. The Louisiana State Engineers dynamited a levee in St. Bernard Parish in 1927, which shaped fears in 1965 and 2005 that politicians had lit another fuse. The mutual benefit associations African Americans developed during Reconstruction to provide burial insurance shaped the social aid and pleasure clubs that offered Louisiana its most popular metaphor for recovery, the jazz funeral.